Newcastle disappoint, dog, against a relegation battling Leeds who have made a good statement to equalize relatively late on against Champions League battling Newcastle. Props to them. Props to Sam Allardyce in this one. But then a question arises. Do we look at Newcastle and ask, are they crumbling at the end?
No. We should be asking that to your team. Or actually, they already have crumbled, so never mind. But yeah, I mean, Leeds once again put in a good performance, second week in a row. Or I guess the City game was the late flurry, and that was about it. But yeah, this game, I mean, I mentioned Patrick Bamford. He cannot play. He should not be starting. And I think we can all agree that single-handedly he lost, or they didn't lose, but it feels like a loss because they should have been up 2-0.
Yeah, but still commend the fighting spirit from Leeds to get back in it. So would you say that without Bamford, Leeds could have gone on and won this match?
Oh, 100%. I mean, you go up 2-0, going up 2-0, the difference between that and 3 minutes later you're pegged back to 1-1. It's such a big difference. You know, you made such a great start at home. 6 minutes in, you score a good goal, and you're on top against a side that's been near the top this whole season. And for Bamford to go on and do that, I mean, we just knew he was gonna miss. Like there was no conviction in his penalty, no power, no strength in it, no conviction, nothing in it.
So now looking on Leeds from a bigger picture, if Leeds do end up staying up, what are the chances that they can actually recover from such a terrible season this time out and maybe revive themselves for next season? We know obviously from your standpoint, they're going to be looking for a striker. But can Leeds revive from this?
Well, Leeds have just recently fired Victor Orta. Lots been made about him, but he was the one who brought in Bielsa and really started this renovation slash revolution at Leeds. Things had turned sour, but he's now gone. But you look at the last summer signing, they needed a striker because they had lost. Well, I mean, they had lost Rafinha and Phillips, and they gained almost north of £100 million, right? If I remember correctly. And the players that they've brought in, Sinistera, Aronson, sparks here and there, but nowhere near enough goal scoring. And they brought in Rutter, the new record signing, £40 million, I think. He's played one Premier League game. So I feel like this team has a good base, but I mean maybe the direction in the recent times had been a bit off, but I still believe that they have a decent side, decent set of players.
Just need that classic number 9. Just need that striker to just score the goals. It's going to make or break the games, but I still looking on the defensive end from them. Another 2 goals conceded. I guess it was expected against our Newcastle side. So speaking of Newcastle, where's your prediction for their top 4 hopes now? Where does this leave Newcastle?
I mean, a lot's been made about us, but Newcastle are in danger too. If they host Brighton in the midweek, and then they host Leicester, I believe, and then they play Chelsea. Two of the next two opponents, or I should next two opponents, they're both fighting for something big. Brighton, they want to qualify for Europe. Leicester, they obviously want to stay in the Premier League. Chelsea, okay, whatever. But yeah, those two games are huge. And Leicester, who are in a relegation battle themselves, are going to hold a crucial key to the Champions League race because they play Liverpool, obviously, tomorrow, and they travel to Newcastle.
Yeah, it's Leicester can either have a huge say on both sides. I mean, they could battle, save themselves from relegation, or they could surrender and see themselves get relegated. What do you think is going to happen? You think will Leicester get relegated?
I think so. I mean, they're just dreadful. You know, I don't see any hope for them. I guess the only hope would be if I mean I think it's down to either Leeds or Leicester. I think one of those two. I think Everton might be safe. I guess yeah. I'm stupid. It would be both of them going down, not either of those. But yeah, I
But
think
enough on who's going down and enough on the relegation battle. Let's swing it back up to Europe a little bit. Two teams battling for Europe. This was a crucial match where this is concerned. And that's Aston Villa versus Tottenham. You predicted right yet again. Aston Villa did respond and bounce back with a victory against Tottenham. What is going on with Tottenham? They cannot get a win to save their lives. But having that said, Kane once again remains on the score sheet. He must have to go now. Do you think that this is a last chance for Kane to leave this summer coming up? I mean, if he doesn't leave, like what would you do? What would you do if you were Harry Kane? Would you leave or would you stay at Tottenham?
if he doesn't leave, something's wrong with the guy. Like,
He has to leave at this point.
there's no, he's 30. He's not going to wait around for any sort of project at Tottenham. I mean, he might, but it's just not logical. And history has proven that he may not be the most logical player ever. But I mean, really, what are you doing over there?
Well, hold on. So let's look at the span of his career now. So if Kane, let's say Kane remains at Tottenham and his career just kind of sails cruising as is, in the sense of he continues to perform, he continues to get the consistent amount of goals he scores, but still doesn't ever win any major trophies. How would you look at Harry Kane's career if it were to pan out like that?
I feel like he would be regarded even less so than how we regard Alan Shearer. Remember, Alan Shearer's top goal scorer, but nobody really talks about him as or near the level of, let's say, Thierry Henry or even like the likes of Drogba or Aguero or any of those guys. That's because, and even then, Shearer has one Premier League title, but that's because he went to Newcastle and didn't win anything afterwards, right? So imagine Harry Kane, even if he breaks the record 20 years down the line, I have a feeling that he's going to be regarded just as less, or if not less, than how Shearer is getting regarded now. I mean, that's no offense to Alan Shearer, but just in general, you look at how players are talked about in the media and by the fans. Shearer is not up there when he probably should be. Just looking at his goal scoring record.
Yeah, I mean, he's an all-time leading goal scorer in Premier League history, so I mean, you got to give that credit. But just to kind of put a stamp on that for Kane, so cult hero or legend for Harry Kane?
I mean, he's got to be a legend. Yeah, I mean,
Tottenham fan. If you're a Tottenham fan, you'd probably be saying the same. But from an outside perspective, how can you be a legend and you don't win any major trophies?
well, I mean, Steven Gerrard is a Premier League legend, right? He's never won the Premier League. I know he won the Champions League and the FA Cups and stuff, but in terms of Premier League, he's never won it either. So I
Yeah,
just
but is it? I mean, just because you don't win the Premier League, I mean, Gerrard, as you said, he makes up for it. He makes up for it with the Champions League, with the FA Cups. Kane has nothing to defend his point. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. I mean, you guys let us know, how do you think Harry Kane will be regarded and viewed as 10, 15 years down the line?
Yeah, and as for this match now, what kind of a statement is this from Villa? Are they gonna make Europe now?
It's a toss up now, right, between them and Brighton for the last Europa League spot, probably. But Aston Villa, I mean, they did this against us too, but they probably recognize that both teams probably don't have the ability to play those line breaking passes. But their offside trap was there, should I say, on point. I mean, it was very frustrating because it would just break the game, the flow of the game so often. But Tottenham had 9 offside offenses, and that's because, I mean, you look at how Tottenham squad is made up, right? You have Højbjerg and Skip, who, when any type of pressure gets put on them, are just forced backwards and play the easy passes. And
I want to touch on that offside trap a little bit though, and all those chances that they got. Let's look at your countryman. Are you not disappointed in how he was finishing off those chances? I mean, what's going on in his head?
well, to be honest, from what I've seen of him, when it's offside, I mean, most players know, right, when it's offside or not. He tends to, I don't want to say relax, but he tends to go easy on finishing those chances, which shouldn't be the case. You never know, right? But that's what I noticed. But I mean, the last chance he got, I mean, he scored, right? He got into a good area and then he poked it past Emi Martinez from a very far out. But yeah, I mean, back to my point, Tottenham had zero shots in the first half. They can't seem to have both. They either have a potent attack or a porous defense, or they have not so poor. I'm not gonna say strong. I'll say not so porous defense, but a dismal attacking output.
It's always just imbalance, whichever way you want to look at it. It's always going to be imbalance in one favor. But that's a good point because I noticed for that first half, a lot of that first half, Kane was asked to come deep as he is asked to do a lot of times in his Tottenham career and partially even for England. And Son and Richarlison were asked to be the ones making the darting runs in behind the defense. Couple a couple potential chances came from it, as you say. A lot of them were offside, but maybe that is something if they get a few players around Kane to build off of that. But I feel like we're saying that every single year for Tottenham.
Yeah. Harry Kane's got to go. If he doesn't leave, there's something wrong with his brain. Like the guys,
Honestly,
unless it's gonna be very hard for anybody to lower him out, right? I mean, Harry Kane scored 27 Premier League goals in that abysmal Tottenham team. Right, you take him out. I think I saw a stat the other day. Okay. I don't like this stat because you take somebody out, that doesn't mean anything. Those ifs are so useless in football. But if you take Harry Kane's goals out, they would be below Bournemouth.
I mean, I'm not surprised. We talk about Rashford being or Manu being a Rashford team. I think this is more than anything. Tottenham are the Harry Kane team. And you saw that against Villa. The man won the penalty and the man took the penalty. It's like, what more could you ask again? I'm doing a little bit of bet MGM right now. And I'm telling you, even as an Arsenal fan, I always bet on the Tottenham loss. That's always, we can always bet on that. But one thing you can bet on for sure is Harry Kane going score. And they're giving you some great odds. So I'm like, this is an easy snap up. You can basically guarantee it because if Tottenham go and win, Kane's going to be part of those goals anyway. So it's obviously a hit. And even if they lose, he still ends up being part of the goals somehow. I don't get it. For his sake, he's got to go.
Yeah, and again, we'll touch on this later on the summer, but it depends on whether anybody can negotiate with Daniel Levy, I guess. I can see why he wouldn't want to sell Harry Kane, rather just lose him for free. But yeah.
But talking about Kane as the one-man show for Tottenham, we did just speak about how Rashford was the one-man show for Man U. But the one-man show, the one man wasn't even there. And Man U were still able to come up with the victory against Wolves 2-0. No missing him at all.
Yeah, and the opponent helped too. Wolves looked like they had no desire to really go for anything, really. They played two strikers and they didn't put in any crosses. And those two strikers were Diego Costa and Mateus Cunha. You've got to make a chaos in the box for them to be effective, right? And they just didn't. I'll say they were dreadful. And like I said, it was an easy game because I was worried that them having no pressure, it might turn out to them playing like prime Barcelona, maybe. But no, I mean, they just looked like they were there and couldn't wait for the game to be over. And it was, I wouldn't say a stroll in the park because it was 1-0 for a very long time, but they never really looked like scoring anyway.
I want to look on I want to hear your take on Anthony's performance in this one. He missed that glaring chance early on, but then came up with the assist for Martial's first goal to open up. What do you make of Anthony?
Well, had we not won, I will be cussing him out right now. And maybe that's not fair because he's probably one of our best attackers in recent weeks. He gets into good areas. He runs at he's running at defenders more, and I appreciate that. I can see it. But the end product's got to be there. Nothing frustrates me more than a footballer not hitting the damn target. The goal is how big is the goal? I don't know the exact number, but it's a huge goal. You have to make
Yeah,
people work at least.
point blank range as well.
It's just nothing gets me more frustrated than a footballer. I would understand maybe if it's a center half or a defender. Okay, maybe because you're not really trained to be in the situation. But an attacker, come on.
And usually I'm quite understanding of these moments for footballers, but Anthony with this price tag, with these expectations, it's happened too much now in front of goal. However, I always like to give players time. It's still his first season. I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt that he's still kind of gelling into the squad. But what do you think? Do you think Anthony has a future at Man United?
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's his first season. We love that excuse for any manager, any player. But I mean, genuinely, do you see Anthony's trajectory in the next 2, 3 seasons reaching that of, the likes of Salah, Mane, or any of those guys? Probably not.
Honestly, I think he could get there. I don't think he's gonna provide it in the same way that Mane and Salah do. I think Mane and Salah are more natural goal scorers, but I think you're gonna see a lot of flair. You're gonna see a lot of creativity. You're gonna see a lot of energy, and I think you're gonna see a lot of defensive work rate from him too, and a lot of passion. I think give him some time.
Okay, maybe it's unfair comparing him to a freaking winger who's scoring 30 goals a season, but
Honestly, as well.
I just don't see it, Like I just don't see him reaching that level. Even if I did give him time, I'm not saying he'll be a failure, but maybe talking about his price tag is unfair on him. But I, yeah, I just personally don't see him reaching that level. And not many players can reach that level, to be honest. But
Well, another player who had a similar price tag and does get criticized for this price tag, Jack Grealish over at Man City. His side
well,
came up with
before
and
before we speak about the freaking annoying City side, this is gonna be unpopular opinion among probably many fans, but Ericsson needs to be dropped. The guy is not offering anything since his return from the injury. Defensively, he's a liability. That he's always been. But on the ball, he always looks a bit slow. The final passes are either way too hard or wayward or it gets cut out. And he takes too much time on the ball. And I think from a player like him to be caught on the ball in so many occasions, I don't know what's wrong with it because that's not him. And he hasn't offered anything going forward since his return from injury. And the guy's got to be dropped. I don't know for who. I mean, maybe there's no better options than him, but it's not working right now.
that was gonna be my next question was for who? Maybe Bruno could play a deeper role, him next to Casemiro, and then maybe you're gonna have to find another cam or something or switch up. I always thought you guys should play two strikers with Martial and Rashford, both at the strike in front, and you can have Bruno and Casemiro in the midfield, Jaden on the left, and then Anthony on the right. That could be a good 4-4-2 right there.
I mean, I don't know if that would be realistic. To be perfectly honest, if you have Bruno in the double pivot with Casemiro. But just one last thing on the game. You keep mentioning about how you want to drop Bruno deep, but the guy just makes such good movements. And the one thing that I thought this whole game was if only Bruno had a bit more pace to him, he'll be so much more dangerous because he gets into such good areas. So many times he just a promising situation, a promising ball doesn't evolve into something more promising because he's not the quickest player in the world, and you don't expect that from a creator necessarily. But boy, if he had lightning pace, he'll be better than Kevin De Bruyne.
No, I disagree. I still don't like his final third efficiency. That's where he's lacking for me. Final third efficiency. But speaking of Kevin De Bruyne and his side, Manchester City, the talk of the town was not De Bruyne today, and nor was it Grealish what we were talking about.
They didn't even play.
Didn't even play. The talk of the town was a man who we asked the question of. Ilkay Gundogan seems to be proving his worth as one of the best central midfielders in the Premier League history. 2 goals and an assist again in a crucial time, again in a crucial moment, again. People are not going to recognize this if you weren't watching the game because of the scoreline, but Everton were pressing. They were working very early on, and they honestly could have snuck in a lead early.
Yeah, City weren't good. City weren't good. Everton were very solid defensively. But, I mean, I have to ask you again, with Gundogan effectively ending your title chase, is he still not in your top 10 of all time?
He's slowly changing my opinion as it goes on, because when you're really looking on everything combined, if they go on and win this, which they should go on and win the title at this point, it is another title win for him and City. It is another crucial game from him, back to back, and he was the game winner last season to give them the title again. So to say that he hasn't had an effect on City, honestly, it's growing more than becoming an unsung hero. He's actually coming into the history makers as, yo, I'm here as a legend. He's really making that statement. So honestly, yeah, he's proving me wrong at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's much to say on this, really, this game. I think the talk of the town is going to be the next game, where Brighton have effectively ended or confirmed Man City as a Premier League champion.
And to be honest, as gutted as I was about, as I mentioned, the real time that we lost the title in the matches before this, those matches were down to us. That was our doing, our poor performing. And I know everybody's going to give me stick for always making this call or making this claim as to why this game turned out the way it was. But the ref at it again. I'm saying it. I'm sorry, because I hate to call on the ref, but the moment I knew that this game was going to get out of sorts was when Caicedo made the challenge on Martinelli and there was no card. That's when I knew.
Well, to be fair, Martinelli had a pretty nasty challenge on Mitoma as well.
He did. But in this one, the eyes were always on the ball in that one. I don't think that was intentional. But
No,
if you watch,
you can see he's already not getting to the ball and he just charges into to Mitoma.
it was wild. I'm not saying it wasn't wild, but it wasn't intentional.
No, I say this because Martinelli has shown this. I remember I forget which game it was, but he's done the Harry Kane special when the ball is up in the air, and I think it was against Southampton. It was Benderek, right? When he had to be forced off for I don't think it was concussion, but some sort of head injury. Martinelli is a sneaky, dirty player, and that's why I can see what he was trying to do. I think it was intentional. Either way, we'll never know. But yeah, the referee was poor. I can give you that. But
very poor. And the Saka, I still don't think that ball from Saka was out yet.
But I mean, yeah, today is not why you lost the title, like you said. You lost it.
It isn't. It isn't.
But I mean, how concerning is the end of the season going to be for Arsenal for next season? Because
well, I think it's gonna be better for us. I think this spell helped us to learn what it feels like to be in a title running late on into the season, and it's gonna give us that kind of experience and understanding and that buffer to say, all right, this is what we need to do now. It's that learning experience. And I hate to go back to the refs, but this is Brighton and Brentford, 2 matches we should have gotten the results from. That's 5 points right there. Literally ahead of them, but still the game in hand. Anyway. Sorry.
I'll give it the Brentford because that was shocking.
And this one too. I'm still gonna take this one. But anyway, I need to just refresh my mind for a second.
I mean, to be honest, I say this because you may not realize this, but how you finish the season actually can impact your next season. You know, like I think we saw that with Chelsea. Chelsea, they wobbled through the finish line last season, and they had a shaky start this season. I know that there's a bit more to that, but I think this can be quite concerning. You know, your team who were rolling on every single cylinder, now you were dropping points to West Ham, Southampton. Okay, lost against Brighton, no shame in that, I guess. But I think it is quite concerning for next season.
The concern for me does not lie with our performances. The concern for me lies within the competition from the other sides in and around. I think there's going to be more teams competing for the top. I think Man U is on the rise. I think Chelsea are going to come back. I really think that. As terrible as they were this season, they've historically been roller coaster season after season like that, up and down, up and down. And they obviously have the squad for it. They have the financial backing. City obviously going to be up there. Liverpool are catching back form. Newcastle are making a charge. It's going to be dangerous all around. So that's what I'm worried about.
So, what do Arsenal need to do next season, other than prevent injuries?
We need reinforcements. Simple as that. We need a central midfielder first and foremost. We need a striker as well. And I still think we need one dynamic right back. I like Ben White a lot. I think he's excellent and he's had an excellent season. I think we need another option, a different option. Not necessarily, I'm not saying one is to start over the other. I'm just saying somebody to add something different from the right back spot.
Yeah, I think in that way, I think you might be looking at our right back situation and thinking, we have links to Frimpong and some right backs, but I don't think our right back situation is a priority, So I don't know what you thought about, but you have Wan-Bissaka, who you can always trust to lock down a winger, opposition winger, and you have, if you want to play more of a dominant game, you can always put on Dalot to be more of a possession-based team, So something like that, is that what you're looking for? Would
exactly something like that.
Yeah, so would you take our right backs over your right back?
I guess I would take the pair, but then no, because we still have Tomiyasu. He really had a bad injury. He could be that guy too. I still think he's slightly more on the defensive end or defensively balanced than he is attacking. But I still like, I guess individually, I like Tomiyasu and Ben White more than Wan-Bissaka and Dalot. But, based on what you're saying, I do like that you guys have the ability to interchange styles more effectively, if that makes sense. I think Ben White and Tomiyasu are too similar. They're too similar compared to Wan-Bissaka and Dalot having that variation.
Well, yeah. I mean, they were both center halves, so.
Exactly. There you go. That's all we have time for today. Guys, thanks for tuning in as always. We hope you enjoyed your time with us. Remember to subscribe, to leave comments, and share with your friends. Follow us on social media at FOTBpod. Don't forget to leave a review, rating, and most importantly, don't forget to turn on those notifications. Join us again next time as we discuss the highly anticipated upcoming Premier League action. Thanks again as always. See you then.